A new season is upon us, which means that players are being given the opportunity to pick a free Series 3 card for their collections. And I'm going to take you through the top 20, in my opinion, that you should be considering in Marvel Snap for the current meta. The first is going to be number 20, which is Mr. Negative. Now, Mr. Negative itself is not actually in the greatest spot. It used to be one of the most broken decks in the game. It used to be one of the most oppressive decks in the game, and it got nerfed pretty hard. It actually used to be a 4/4, believe it or not. And long story short, if you see Mr. Negative and you have a lot of the other pieces like Zabu, Magic, Psylocke, it's worth picking up, especially if you have Mystique 2 to work with that Iron Man, because it is an incredible deck. It is a very unique deck, and it actually unlocks a whole new archetype that you couldn't have played otherwise. So Mr. Negative, if you have the right pieces, could be worth picking up, but there are so many more that you might want to consider, including Shuri. Now, I know it's crazy to suggest that Shuri is still worth buying. Honestly, it's just a good card still. With the Living Tribunal coming, which is going to evenly spread power across the board, the idea of having a card that can go very vertical while spreading the power with the Tribunal is actually pretty interesting, because you're going to have a turn 4 Shuri, a turn 5 big card, so to speak, and then a turn 6 Tribunal. So there's a chance that Shuri might actually kind of creep back into the meta in some ways. It's definitely kind of lower on the priority list than it used to be, and there's a good chance a lot of you already bought Shuri when it was really hot in the meta, but it is worth noting that it's not as bad as people think it is. It's just not completely earth-shattering like it was for the last couple months. Polaris is one that finds itself climbing up the meta, and in overall terms of giving you a card that provides a lot of utility, Polaris is a great option. Primarily not because it just works in Silver Surfer and it can make up space for something like Lizard, which used to be one of the best 2-drops in the game, and still probably is. The thing that it really does well is it counters Galactus, Destroy, Bucky Barnes, and things along those lines. So for instance, if you're against a Galactus player and they play Yondu, and you suspect that they're going to be playing Galactus after they play their wave, you can actually use the Polaris to pull the Yondu into the Galactus location and prevent him from Galactusing and destroying the other location. So it's pretty damn impactful when you consider just how disruptive the ability can be. It's a 3/5, which is very powerful, and of course it works well with Silver Surfer. So Polaris is like a natural fit in so many decks, especially if you're early on in Pool 3. Destroyer is a card that's really fascinating. It finds itself at number 17 because it's actually getting increased number of synergies. Like you had the Nimrod synergy, but mainly you had this ongoing Destroyer archetype, which required almost no cards whatsoever. And basically right out of Pool 3 with just Destroyer, you could have a pretty capable list with Spectrum, Destroyer, and a bunch of ongoing cards, including Warpath. Now, Destroyer is finding itself kind of more prevalent in the meta with Nimrod and other types of plays with Destroy and Null, which is dropping in series as well. So as that happens, Destroyer finds itself being kind of played in more unique decks. You'll love to see it because it is a very fascinating card. Agent Coulson comes in at number 16, a little lower than I had it last time. But what I will suggest here is that with the new battle mode and, the conquest mode coming out, Agent Coulson might be one of those cards you really want to consider, because it truly makes battle modes really, really interesting, because your opponent can simply not predict what kind of cards you're going to pull, and the cards are generally just pretty damn good. Quinjet provides you with a lot of utility to get you get kind of things out discounted. And of course, Zabu works well with it as well, and Sera has the Sera effect. Overall, as a kind of 3/4 that does a lot of work on the board, Agent Coulson is definitely worth considering. It's not the highest impact on this list, but if you see it and you just feel like snatching it, it definitely is worth it at 16. Zero is unique in the sense that I think it activates a whole new style of deck. Zero Ebony Maw, Zero Titania, Zero Lizard, these are some of the strongest openings in the game. You even have Zero Red Skull, which is kind of falling off because Red Skull is being used in other combinations. It's still a combo worth considering. But mainly, the reason why Zero is so strong is because of these early game tempo plays. With the resurgence of Leader and other cards that are kind of like falling out of the meta, then coming back with the new changes that are occurring in Marvel Snap, Zero kind of remains a very viable option, and if you see it in your shop for free, it's definitely worth considering, especially if you've unlocked Titania. Valkyrie is one of my favorite cards in the game. Now, I kind of like want to put Valkyrie higher, but realistically, 14 is exactly right. It's one of the best surprise cards in Marvel Snap. The ability to like completely reset the power to 3 is great for like Cerebro. It allows you to do crazy things with Wasp for free. It has great synergy with Ant-Man in a full lane. It allows you to trade effectively with Blue Marvel, Soulstone, and others. The only thing it does not do well is it does not handle things like, for instance, Darkhawk. It actually buffs a Darkhawk. It doesn't handle a Devil Dinosaur. So those ongoing abilities, it's kind of not capable of dealing with. But Nebulas, Sunspots, and others get completely destroyed by Valkyrie, especially if they have initiative and they play into a lane and then you wipe it with the Valkyrie after. It's a great card, and it's one of the best surprise cards in the game. Bast is a pure just value support card. It comes out on turn 1, and when it does so, it's one of the best cards in the game. Mr. Negative, instead of being 4 cost -1, is a 4/3. The Hood becomes instead of a 1-2, it becomes a 1/3. Like, these are insane changes, and a unique interaction is Mysterio, because Mysterio's illusions become 2/3s, including the actual Mysterio itself, meaning that it's like a mini Doctor Doom. Bast is an incredible card that has a lot of synergy and is finding itself being placed in many decks. And honestly, if it's available to you, it's a great option in the current meta. Death is one of those cards that like isn't actually all that popular right now as of recording, but it's always kind of on the outskirts of being one of the most broken cards in the game because it's just that impactful. It activates an entire archetype. The entire Destroy archetype relies on Death. Death Wave is still a good deck that you can get to Infinite with. It's just like one of the classic cards, and you're never going to be upset picking up Death because it really does activate Destroy in a very unique way. It's a card that you can use at pretty much any point in your Marvel Snap career. Aero. Aero climbs a lot. It makes it kind of like interesting because last time I did this, Aero was like really low. I think I had it like 19th. I was like, nope, Aero's done. Got destroyed by the nerf, and yeah, the nerf hit it pretty hard, but honestly, with the prevalence of the Wave 5 combination, like spoiler, Wave's one of the best cards in the game. The opportunity to play Aero and just basically disrupt the one card they're playing on turn 6 is kind of crazy. With Sandman's prevalence, which I mean, Sandman's kind of come down a little bit thanks to the nerf from going from a 5/5 to a 5/3. You're not seeing it as much, but like honestly, Aero has been surprisingly still effective because with the Wave 5 combination plays, they're usually just playing one card. And so like you have the old Aero effect, but with one additional power. So it's actually kind of crazy. So Aero, still good, still worth picking up because of Wave specifically. Patriot comes in at 10, and Patriot's just like one of those cards that realistically everyone wants Patriot. You have cards like Misty Knight and Cyclops, and you just want them to do something. Now, High Evolutionary is going to help them out as well, but realistically, Patriot is one of those cards that like it kind of creates a whole new archetype. It's worth playing. Ultron loves it, and you just want Patriot in your list, like you really do. And if you don't have Mystique, the top end of the deck feels a little bad. Like Patriot's not worth picking up if you don't have Mystique for the most part. But if you have Patriot, then Mystique's an absolute must-buy. And if you have Mystique, then Patriot becomes a kind of must-buy as well. So ultimately, like, it's a great card, and it unlocks a whole new archetype for you to enjoy. Daredevil's actually climbing quite a bit. Could have been higher on this list, partially because Control is one of the best decks in the game right now in the current meta. And any version of Control that plays Daredevil has an advantage. You know, Control with Professor X and Jeff with Daredevil is huge. Hobgoblins are all over the place, and so are Green Goblins. Like, there's so much happening right now, and Daredevil giving you that additional scouting effect is huge. It's going to win you a lot of cubes. The turn 5 snap with Daredevil is still one of the most feared things in Marvel Snap. It's a good card, and I have no hesitation recommending it. I actually kind of regret not putting it higher. But how could I put it higher when you have great cards like Magneto? Magneto is just like one of the absolute best cards in the game. Like, it's 6/12 power. It disrupts 3 lanes because you put 12 power in one lane, disrupt the other 2. It can win a game single-handedly. It does well with Lockjaw Jubilee. It does great with Wave as well, but not quite as good as something like Aero. Kingpin is like a classic combo, but high MMR players will know that if there's a Kingpin and they're expecting Magneto, they'll just fill the lane so you can't drag anything in there anyways. But ultimately, Magneto impacts multiple lanes at the same time on turn 6. it's a damn good card, and it's worth picking up, especially for free. Now, this is one that's sliding in the meta a little bit. Electro was like almost top 3 in the last time we did this list, but with the changes to the meta, specifically to the nerfs to Leech and Sandman, Electro is primarily being played in Galactus. Now, there is the Electro ramp list where you kind of do your Doctor Doom Odin combinations, which I still think are really good. However, the Electro ramp style lists have kind of come down in win rate a little bit. It still unlocks a whole new style of archetype and play in ramp, but it's just not quite as good as it used to be. Dracula is one of my favorite cards in the game. I think this could have easily been number 1. I've been saying for like weeks that Discard is without question one of the best decks in Marvel Snap right now. I think people are sleeping on Discard, and as a result, people are sleeping on Dracula. This card, especially with the use of MODOK, is like incredibly reliable. They can't get rid of it. Like they can Magneto it, I guess, but they can't Enchantress, they can't Shang-Chi it, they can't do anything. This card just exists, and it can be so problematic for your opponent. And honestly, Discard has so many reliable tools now. It's incredible what Dracula can do. It's one of my favorite cards in the game, and if it's for free, you run Discard to infinite, especially if you have MODOK. Mystique, it's the ultimate combo card. How do you not buy Mystique? If Mystique's being offered to you for free in the shop, you definitely got to take it. Mystique Iron Man and negative decks is amongst the best in the game. Mystique Patriot's amongst the best in the game. You can Mystique Darkhawk. You can Mystique Devil Dino. Like, there's just so much you can do with Mystique. It is such a good card. You would never, ever be disappointed with picking up Mystique for free with your pick because it's just incredible. Like, it's a fantastic card. It's one of the ultimate combo pieces in the game. Doctor Doom, the former number 1, has slipped to 4. This is because things are changing. Sandman ramp is kind of falling off a little bit, and Doctor Doom is still like one of the best, like just fallback. I need a really good 6-drop. What do? Just play Doctor Doom. It's still good. Decks still go very vertical. Bad locations can get access with Doctor Doom. It has so much flexibility. People often sleep on the fact that like those Doom bots can actually be Patrioted. They don't have skills. So if like you're kind of you don't have Ultron, you're making a Patriot style deck, you can actually use Doctor Doom. So there's a lot that Doctor Doom does really well, and really it can kind of just go in any deck. It's a great card, and it's one of the best ones that you can pick up for your free pick. And then coming in at 3, and this could have been 1, Sera. So right now in the meta, Sera is clearly number 1. Hitmonkey Sera is like one of the best decks in the game. You have so many Sera variations of like Sera Surfer. You have the Sera Miracle style kind of negative decks as well. There's so much happening right now, and the Sera Monkey stuff is like number 1. If you've purchased the season pass for Hitmonkey, you need to have Sera. So if Sera is available to you and you've bought Hitmonkey and you didn't have it before, you can ride that deck all the way into infinite. It's literally one of the best decks in the game right now. I piloted it with like almost a 70% win rate. It's crazy. I've made videos about it. Sera is definitely one of the best decks and best archetypes in Marvel Snap right now, and definitely worth picking up. Number 2 is She-Hulk. This card just does everything. It's just damn good. It got nerfed from a 6'10 to a 6'9. It's still amazing. And I kind of am cheating a bit because number 1 and 2 kind of go together. And they're really number 1 and 2 if you have both. Because with She-Hulk, the thing that makes She-Hulk so powerful is what you see right here in Wave. Like, Wave makes She-Hulk an absolutely insane card because what you do is you skip, you basically conserve energy on turn 5. You play just Wave, you conserve 2 energy. And then what happens is She-Hulk becomes a 2, and it allows you to play any additional card. Aero, Death, right? Odin, Doctor Doom, whatever it is. And like with Wave being number 1, it's because the synergy between the two is just insane. You have 2 of the best cards in the game, and they synergize perfectly to create these like Wave 5 lists that are nearly impossible to contend with. And by far, I do think that Wave is probably one of the best cards in the game right now, if not the best Pool 3 card. And it feels balanced in the sense that like you are committing only 3 power on turn 5, but that turn 6 with She-Hulk in hand, you play She-Hulk, you play Aero, and like what does your opponent do? They just lose. That's their option. You play Wave, and then you play She-Hulk, and then you play Doctor Doom. Like, that's so much power spread across the board. So I do think that Wave is without question one of the absolute best cards that you can pick up in Marvel Snap right now. It's my number 1. because honestly, it just activates so much right now. It's the best card in the game, in my opinion. One of them, at least. And thank you so much for watching. I got another video for you here, and I hope that you enjoyed this tier list series. I'm going to be doing another one next month, so please hit the like button if you'd like to support the series. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and we'll see you in the next Marvel Snap video.